you've been studying the wrong rulers. While you've been mesmerized by the crowns, the ceremonies, and the grand declarations, you've missed the most crucial element of true power. The real kingdom isn't built in marble palaces or defended by armies. It's constructed in the depths of the psyche, in those hidden chambers where the most powerful kings throughout history have cultivated their greatest weapon, psychological sovereignty. Carl Jung understood what most never grasp. The kings who shaped civilizations weren't just political leaders, they were masters of their own inner realm. They possessed something that modern society has forgotten entirely: the ability to rule themselves before attempting to rule others. And this isn't ancient history. This is the missing piece in your own life, the hidden power that separates those who command respect from those who desperately seek it. You see, there's a shadow kingdom operating beneath the surface of every interaction, every decision, every moment of pressure in your life. The kings who understood this, who learned to navigate their own psychological landscape, wielded influence that transcended their physical circumstances. They didn't just react to power, they emanated it from within. But here's what's devastating. You've been programmed to look for power in all the wrong places. You've been taught that strength comes from control over others, that leadership means having all the answers, that influence requires manipulation. This is exactly backwards. The truly powerful kings knew that external authority flows naturally from internal mastery. They understood that the mind, when properly governed, becomes an unassailable fortress. Every powerful king in history carried two crowns, the visible one made of gold and jewels, and the invisible one forged in the depths of psychological understanding. The second crown was always more valuable, because it could never be stolen, never be toppled by revolution, never be diminished by defeat. Jung called this the process of individuation, the journey toward psychological wholeness. But in the context of power, it becomes something far more practical and immediate. The kings who mastered this understood that their greatest enemy wasn't the rival kingdom across the border. It was the chaos within their own minds, the unintegrated aspects of their personality that could sabotage them at crucial moments. Consider this. When Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations, he wasn't just philosophizing, he was documenting his internal governance strategy. Every entry was a lesson in psychological sovereignty, a method for maintaining inner order while managing an empire. He understood that ruling Rome was secondary to ruling himself. The external empire was merely a reflection of the internal one. But the shadow crown comes with a price. To wear it, you must confront what Jung termed your shadow, those aspects of yourself you've buried, denied, or projected onto others. Weak rulers spend their lives running from their shadows, which inevitably manifest as self-sabotage, poor judgment, and the inability to inspire genuine loyalty. Powerful kings, however, learn to integrate their shadows, transforming potential weaknesses into sources of strength. This is why you feel powerless in your own life. You've been fighting external battles while your internal kingdom remains in chaos. You've been seeking validation from others while your own psyche remains uncharted territory. The hidden power you're missing isn't a technique or strategy, it's the courage to explore and govern your own inner landscape. The most dangerous misconception about power is that it requires becoming invulnerable. True kings understood the opposite. Power requires becoming deeply aware of your vulnerabilities and protecting them strategically. They didn't build walls around their emotions, they built sophisticated psychological armor that allowed them to feel deeply while remaining unmanipulable. Jung identified this as the development of the transcendent function, the ability to hold opposing forces in creative tension without being torn apart by them. Powerful kings mastered this psychological skill, allowing them to be both decisive and flexible, both confident and humble, both strong and vulnerable when appropriate. Think about it this way. When you react emotionally to criticism, you're handing over your inner kingdom to whoever triggered you. But when you can receive criticism, process it internally, and respond from a place of centered awareness, you maintain psychological sovereignty. This isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about developing the capacity to experience them fully while maintaining your ability to choose your response. The psychological armor isn't built through avoidance or denial, it's forged through what Jung called active imagination, the practice of deliberately engaging with your inner conflicts, fears, and desires until you understand them so thoroughly that they can no longer control you unconsciously. Kings who mastered this technique could walk into any situation with unshakable inner stability. This is why you feel anxious in challenging situations. Your psychological armor is incomplete. You haven't mapped your inner territory, so you can't protect it effectively. Every interaction becomes a potential threat because you don't know where your boundaries are or how to maintain them. The hidden power lies in developing this internal defense system not to shut out the world, but to engage with it from a position of strength. Here's where it gets counterintuitive. The kings who wielded the most authentic power were those who learned to surrender not to others, but to the larger forces operating within their own psyche. They understood that trying to control every aspect of their inner experience was like trying to control the weather. Instead, they learned to work with their psychological nature, channeling its energy rather than fighting it. Jung called this the integration of the self, the archetype of wholeness that emerges when conscious and unconscious elements are brought into harmony. For powerful kings, this meant learning to trust their intuition while sharpening their rational mind, embracing their aggressive instincts while tempering them with wisdom, acknowledging their need for love while maintaining their independence. This creates what appears to be a paradox. The more fully you accept your limitations, the more powerful you become. The more honestly you face your fears, the more courage you develop. The more you understand your own darkness, the more authentic your light becomes. Weak leaders exhaust themselves trying to be someone they're not. Powerful kings find their strength in being exactly who they are, completely and unapologetically. But this isn't about passive acceptance. It's about active integration. When you stop fighting aspects of yourself and start working with them, you free up enormous amounts of psychological energy. That energy becomes available for vision, creativity, and the kind of magnetic presence that naturally draws others to follow you. The sovereignty isn't about dominating other sides, about governing yourself so effectively that others naturally want to align with your direction. It's about becoming so clear about your values, so confident in your purpose, so integrated in your being that you become a fixed point in a chaotic world. People don't follow you because you force them to. They follow you because your psychological stability creates a sense of safety and possibility. The ultimate secret of powerful kings wasn't their armies or their wealth, it was their ability to rule from what Jung called the self, the integrated center of their being. This invisible throne couldn't be attacked by enemies, couldn't be stolen by rivals, couldn't be diminished by failure. It was the source of their unshakable authority. When you rule from this center, everything changes. Your decisions come from wisdom rather than fear. Your presence commands respect without demanding it. Your influence grows organically because people sense the authenticity of your power. You no longer need to prove yourself because you know yourself. You no longer need to control others because you've learned to govern yourself. This is the hidden power you've been missing. Not the ability to manipulate or dominate, but the capacity to be so fully yourself that you naturally inspire others to become more fully themselves. Not the skill to force compliance, but the presence that invites genuine collaboration. Not the technique to win every battle, but the wisdom to know which battles are worth fighting. The invisible throne is built through daily practice, the practice of self-awareness, emotional integration, and conscious choice. It's constructed through the courage to face your shadow, the discipline to develop your talents, and the wisdom to align your actions with your deepest values. It's maintained through the ongoing commitment to growth, the humility to admit mistakes, and the strength to remain true to yourself even when it's difficult. This is your inheritance, not the crown you wear in public, but the kingdom you govern in private. Not the power you seek from others, but the authority you claim from within. The most powerful kings knew that true sovereignty begins and ends with the self. Everything else is just decoration. The question isn't whether you're capable of this kind of power you are. The question is whether you're willing to do the inner work necessary to claim it. The invisible throne is waiting. Your psychological kingdom is ready to be ruled. The only question remaining is, when will you finally take your seat?